Recruiting time is another opportunity for PJ Fleck to turn on the charm, the character, and reel in the recruits. And he has done just that. National Signing Day just a couple days in the past. We got Daniel House on the line from Gophers Guru to help us break down PJ and staff's efforts. Daniel, how you doing today?
Doing well. The signing day rush is over. Now it's all transfer portal. What a unique environment we live in right now. I know PJ Fleck was talking about it after signing day, just how much work's ahead now and the way college programs will have to adapt and possibly even have four-year recruiting departments and a transfer portal department just to handle all of the personnel moves you have to make to be competitive. It's like NFL free agency almost.
It's like NFL free agency if it was going on all the time and everyone was a free agent. So I pointed that out to a few people who have said, yeah, it's like NFL free agency. And I made the same comment numerous times. And then I thought, you know what? At least it's, I would think 80, 85, 90% of the league is under contract. And it's just obviously a portion of the league that's, that is free agent status first and foremost. And then there's a restricted period of time, which there isn't as much of one here. And so any given day, any given time, folks, your favorite player could look out the window that morning and think, don't like it here, or I got a bad meal down at the cafeteria yesterday, I want to transfer. So that's what that is. When it comes to the 18 letters of intent that have come in, just give us a feel for how this class came to be. If there was anything that came down the wire in the last 24 to 48 hours.
There really weren't a lot of surprises, and Minnesota in this class really focused on a couple of things. First, the defensive backs, being able to mix some skill sets, specifically at cornerback. Aiden Gooseby, a really athletic player with a lot of length, was a very talented receiver, and PJ Fleck and Matt Simon love the receivers. So for him to be transitioning over to cornerback, it tells you how they feel about the type of skill set he has. And then Rylan Kelly, a player from Florida who has the physical traits, a lot of length and size, and comps similarly to Benjamin St-Juste, who's with the Washington football team now. Minnesota had him a few years ago, and he got drafted and has that length and the agility. I think that's one of the things that you look for. You know, these guys that are bigger defensive backs, can they move? And he is really, really solid in the agility metrics and the athletic testing, which is something that Minnesota values as well. And then being able to get a guy like Tariq Watson from Louisiana, who is blazing fast, like a 4.4 type of speed guy who's versatile. He played some safety, played cornerback. He has the ability to play all three spots. I could see him playing nickel cornerback. I love the way that he transitions from back pedal to opening his hips. He breaks on the ball. You can see he has really good 10-yard split, which is something that's important for defensive backs. And then the physicality and aggressiveness that he shows. And I asked Joe Rossi, the defensive coordinator, about this last week and was like, hey, you know, what are you – how much do you value mixing skill sets at the cornerback position to match opponent tendencies? You know, if you got bigger possession-style receivers, you got to have the length and the size. And then if you have a shifty or more slot receiver, you also have to have the shifty, quick defensive backs that match up with that. And Rossi said that's one of the things that they look for. They ask their defensive backs to do a lot of different things in the scheme, so they need versatility. And that was one of the things that really stood out. I think the biggest player in this class is Anthony Smith from Pennsylvania. I know that's a battle that Minnesota previously wouldn't have won with a lot of the previous eras. I mean, Anthony Smith had a lot of big offers, Penn State, Michigan, big helmet schools going after him. But when you fire up the film and you go, okay, this guy has a lot of length, athleticism, being able to bend around the corner, really good in the run game, guy that can come in and help you maybe right away. I mean, he will continue to get stronger in the weight room, but this guy, you know, you watch him on the basketball court too. He's a really good basketball player, brings that footwork to the football field. I know the coaching staff is extremely excited about Anthony Smith. He was one of the top priorities. And like I said, a battle that Minnesota probably wouldn't have won before because they were going up against some really, really big schools. So a huge get for the Gophers in this class.
Daniel House, Gophers Guru, got to check out his work right there covering Minnesota football. And Daniel, for everybody out there that has no idea, maybe coming across you for the first time, it's just not just Minnesota Golden Gophers football, but you track the Vikings. And where's the best place to find you, and then be able to lead to the NFL and college football and everything else you've got going?
You can find me on Twitter at Daniel House NFL, and then my Vikings content is on mnvikingscorner.com. So blended between college and the NFL and high school. So I feel like I watch film, I watch high school, college, NFL. So I get a feel for how guys progress, which I think is honestly valuable. And a lot of people say that they're in the scouting business. You got to be able to see the finished product. So it's exciting. I enjoy it.
As you know from interacting with fan bases, and it's understandable, the first thing they're going to gravitate to is the ranking. And that's where I start as well. Okay, where are they ranked? And they go to the ranking, which is for Minnesota's current class with 18 signed, number 10 in the Big Ten, number 43 in the nation, which seems to settle in where PJ's been, although maybe he's dipped into the 20s once or twice. So for those people out there that they're going to, again, gravitate to that and look at that ranking and consider, okay, this is the expectation of this program, but we know that it has challenged for Big Ten Western Division championships, and that's PJ Fleck's number one goal to get to Indianapolis. How do these classes stack up in regards to being something different than just a number?
Here's what I would say about this class. And you know, when PJ Fleck got to Minnesota in 2017, he had to do some things where, okay, I got to get immediate impact players at some positions because they were limited on their depth on the offensive lines. They had to go get Daniel Falele, Curtis Dunlap, guys just that can play immediately. Well, now they're able to kind of build the roster where they have depth on the back end, and they've been developing guys up behind the scenes, especially on the defensive line, for example. They're able to now get some more developmental players that have the athletic traits and they like what their potential is. They get them in the strength program, they develop them up. And then, in 1 or 2 years, those guys are able to contribute even on a rotational basis and then become a consistent contributor. So that's what I would say about this class. There's a blend of players that could possibly make an impact. I think, like I said, the defensive backs with Coney Durr departing, Justice Harrison, nickel cornerback, they need to find maybe a couple guys that could contribute on a rotational basis or even play a pretty large role. I also would say Christian Hoskins, a wide receiver from Alexandria, Minnesota, very unique player, gadget style of athlete who can, get open off a variety of different routes. You can use them in the screen game, reverses, jet sweeps, all those different things. And Minnesota hasn't really had a skill set like that since PJ Fleck's been at Minnesota, a guy that can do a lot of different things, line up in different spots. And so I would expect him to potentially be a guy that comes in here and makes an impact. I know that, with the way the Gophers want to play football, they need to get some juice. I think that was something that I felt like they were missing at times this year, a guy that can stretch defenses horizontally and vertically. PJ Fleck said Hoskins is one of the fastest players they've hand-timed as a staff. So, he's got a lot of speed, a unique skill set. So I know the staff is very excited about him. And, like, for example, when you go to the back half of the recruiting rankings and you look at a guy like Tony Nelson, an offensive lineman from Tracy, Minnesota, I had a chance to watch him work out at camp and came away already, watching film going, okay, this guy, he's got a lot of upside and potential, super athletic and, a broad jump that's exceptional, a lot of length and size. He can continue to get bigger in the strength program and tighten up his technique. But I remember I was at a camp and watching him do a rep right on the field by PJ Fleck and Brian Callahan. And this rep where his hand technique wasn't very good. And he got beat in a one-on-one drill and stopped the drill. Coach Callahan talks to him, makes the adjustment. Next rep, perfect. Didn't make the mistake the rest of the way. And I just love that when guys are able to respond to coaching and be able to process it quickly and apply it. And I know, the athletic traits that he has and the upside potential, he's lower on the recruiting class rankings, but he's a player that fits the system perfect, a guy that they know they can develop up and is the right fit for the program. I know PJ talks a lot about, vetting the recruits to find out who's going to fit, who wants to play here, his style is different than a lot of other coaches and how he does things. So he's looking for the player that will develop up exactly how they want him to within the culture that they have. So, this was a little bit different of a class. I'd say, they have some instant impact, but they also have developmental. And I think they're going to use the transfer portal a lot too, which was beneficial for them last season.
And folks, let that sink in regards to the example Daniel just gave about the lineman making the correction in the moment. So all of us have work experiences in which we've been shown a different technique or corrected in some way. In a general office setting, factory setting, whatever your warehouse setting, you've got some time to process that, to figure out, okay, the next time I apply this, I'll do A, B, and C instead of C, D, and F, or whatever the case might be. To immediately, in a competitive situation where it has to be applied immediately, it also has to be applied from brain to body function. Is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. And that's something that you get when you go to a camp. That's why I'm watching. I'm going to different drills. I want to see how guys interact. I want to see like body language, how they respond to coaching. That matters. That's something that I think every coach should look at is, looking at how guys compete, how they move between drills, how they respond to coaching, because it is so incredibly important. And I think, you look at Minnesota's class as well with the offensive line, being able to round it out with Cade McConnell from Oklahoma. I know that was a last minute addition, going down to Oklahoma, having a home visit, getting them up here to see Minnesota. I think that will end up being one of the additions that kind of quietly takes this class to another level, because it felt like offensive line was something that they had to round out this class with. And they were able to do that in the last week or so with Ashton Beers as well from Wisconsin. I had a chance to see him work out at a camp too. And I know I gave him one of my top 5 performers when I wrote my piece on the camp. I thought he was a really, really intriguing developmental player that can go and play guard for Minnesota. And now we'll see, as he develops up, what type of player he can become. But, I think there's a lot of upside with the offensive linemen that they picked. And that's one of the keys moving forward, because Minnesota has built this thing around running the football, having physicality up front. Now with some of these veterans, they had one of the more experienced offensive lines in America this last year. Now they need to start building up more depth and getting guys ready to come into bigger roles. So I thought that was one other underrated thing, was being able to round that class off with McConnell, who was previously committed to TCU, and being able, he decommitted and then reopened the recruiting process, and Minnesota was able to close the deal.
18 letters of intent. The signing period closes today, Friday, a 3-day period, then picks back up in February. You almost have to combine the evaluation of a class with the transfer portal again. So I'll try to combine this all together to basically say, where did this class lack based on the rest of the roster? What could be made up, whether there are going to be more signees in this class, whether it's going to reach 2022, or a combination of what PJ Fleck and staff need to do in the transfer portal.
I would say one position that they'll be addressing in the transfer portal is defensive tackle. They have a lot of young players on the depth chart be ready to maybe go into roles, but they also want to have some experience in there. And I think Jacob Schuster's the example of that, a player from Washington that the staff is very excited about. They love his ability to get off of blocks. He's really quick, has a quick first step. He plays with his hands well. He's able to defeat blocks. He's going to be a young player that a lot of people should get familiar with, but I do think they will hit the transfer portal for a defensive tackle, maybe a linebacker as well, a receiver that can maybe play the slot and the line at different positions. I'd say more of a speed-oriented, shifty slot receiver should be a priority. I mentioned Christian Hoskins. We'll see how he transitions in if he's able to make an impact. But Minnesota already made a big addition through the transfer portal from Ryan Stapp, a cornerback from Abilene Christian, was the 5th rated player, I believe, at cornerback and among cornerbacks in the transfer portal. Athletic traits are very, very impressive, like 90th percentile overall in athletic testing. Being able to get him, watching how he's able to break on the ball, recover. He's a guy that can play in the nickel. He can play on the outside possibly. Very, very unique athletic traits, and a guy that the coaching staff feels they can develop up and is ready to make an impact right away, which is something Minnesota needs with departures like Coney Durr and Justice Harris in that secondary. So a huge win. Abilene Christian is the AAA system for Gopher football because they landed Jack Gibbons last year. He turned into a really, really good player. Now going down and getting Ryan Stapp, a teammate and friend of his. That was big in the recruiting process. Gibbons being able to speak to his experience that he's had at Minnesota. So first edition, I think we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. Minnesota is definitely going to continue being aggressive in the transfer portal.
Daniel House, Gophers Guru. Please check out his work covering Minnesota Golden Gophers football right there. And it's also Daniel House NFL on Twitter. I encourage everybody to head over to Twitter right now. Just go Daniel House NFL. Just follow him. It's a great look and a great read consistently throughout day after day after day during the NFL and college football seasons and off seasons. As you well know, it never stops. Daniel, thank you so much for dropping by. Hopefully we can reel you back in to talk about the Gophers matchup with West Virginia.
Yes, that sounds good. Thanks, Mark. We could have went for about an hour here. There's so much more to talk about, but we have plenty of time. We can talk about recruits for another time.